on the call today. Sadly, you miss out. And for those of you who will be in the next 10, if you wanted to, they also will be free. They'll be on the 10, on 9 more points, which I'm going to go through today. Just I'll give you an overview of them. The emphasis here is going to be that those ones will be recorded, but they'll go straight into our members library. They won't be available for you. So make the most of today. You'll get to see all the 9 key points that we do when we are building our IP incubators and how we make them work. So let's get started. The problem I see, well, firstly, the presentation today is going to be for organisations. If you've got an organisation and you're looking at, it might be a profit, it might be a non-profit, it could be a university, any sort of research facility, joint ventures, partnerships, government. We handle pretty much all of them, and all of them can have IP incubators. In fact, we have a government example today for our case study. Also, the relevant personnel within the organisation, it can range. What we try and do when we recruit for an IP incubator is we get a whole range of different skills. And some people move in and out. Others will be there for life. Some will be arriving into the incubator with an IP, with an innovation. And then when that innovation exits, they may stay on or they may exit as well. So there's a whole lot of different scenarios there, but the type of people we're looking for is really a C-suite level, your chief executives, your directors. We also look at people who are within that, have lending themselves to commercialization, such as IP, legal, marketing, R&D, etc. So any of those that you touch upon, then it's worth looking at for creating an IP incubator. Now, what could this change? Well, there's an impact for having all of this if you do this right. This is a perfect growth strategy. It reduces all your risk. It removes the unknowns. It has little or no capital expenditure needed. Sometimes there's no marketing cost to launch and sell. So let's go through something. Firstly, it cuts the leakage of the best ideas. Sometimes ideas will leak out of your organisation for no other reason other than the fact that you don't have a policy in place or it's not advertised well enough. And generally, when you lose your people, your good stuff will go with them. So that hurts, but it's a fact. When they leave, when they take an idea out, they're really closing the door on you as well. They can also become competitors after that. Now, if you do this right, the incubators can build an IP culture within your organisation, so it can actually change that drift, but also it can get people thinking about, what if I did this? What if I did that? Could I create a product? Now, some of those ideas won't have commercial value for anyone else, but they will have for your organisation. We can fatten out your channel. Now, what that means is if you have a sales channel and you're selling product A to 10,000 people a month, and you've got 150,000 people who've previously purchased that, then chances are, if product B fits your channel, then you have no marketing costs, no sales costs. You just say, hey, it's a blast email to 150,000 people saying, hey, if you've got this product A, would you like to have a look at product B, which really goes well with product A? And suddenly you've paid for the whole thing. It can increase your production capacity. Sometimes we have productivity at, let's say, a factory might run at 65%, and you're getting it to 90% might be by marketing and other ways, but another way is just to add a product line. And if that product line uses common parts, well, it's even better. Bringing yourself up to 90% capacity means you've got no expenditure on capital equipment. You've got no marketing costs, no sales costs. All you're doing is just building another product, adding a production line, or adding packaging, and out it goes. So you can also find a way to reward the inventors with patent naming and other non-cash benefits. Believe me, it's easy to talk people out of hiding or hoarding ideas when they realise their savings are at risk. And if they know that you're going to put your savings up as an organisation to look after these, that whole protection thing dissipates. Plus, in many cases, I've made projects work because people have handed them on the basis that they would get their name on a patent, which they can then put, when you print a patent out, you print it out for all the patent holders, including the company, the corporation. So it might be owned by the corporation with all the rights, but it's also naming the individual. You can, sorry about that. So you can reward that person for forever, or for 20 years. They've got a patent with their name on it. So also, it's when you have an incubator and you've designed the incubator the right way, you can use it to actually assess inbound ideas. There's plenty of people who knock on your door with inventions, and they'll say, here's an opportunity for a license or a trade sale or whatever. Would you like to have a look at it? If you don't have a way of assessing it, how it's going to fit for you, what it's going to cost you in terms of tooling up for it, or whether or not it just fits directly into your system, whether you have a relevant sales channel already existing, all of that sort of stuff, which will reduce your commencement costs, is a much better option than going and designing and developing a product yourself. So taking on a license is a great way to stimulate or build your business rapidly, but at the same time, you need to have an assessment tool. And what we do is we provide all those checklists and templates and all of that when we train up the people within the IP incubator. So that gives you an idea of how we work the incubator. What we're going to cover today is 3 parts. We're going to talk about the incubators and all the different aspects of it. I'm not going to read these out, but you can see them there. Once we've done that, I'm going to talk to you about the process, how that process works and how it can work for you. But more importantly, the steps we take. There are 9 steps we go through there. And then finally, how, if you need help, how we can help you. You can set this up yourself. You can buy my book and build on it. You can buy a course and build on that, or you can get coaching and structural changes, and we can put your people through self-paced learning if they want to. We show you how to do. We do a half-day workshop where we bring in people, and it becomes a recruitment tool as well. So we always create incubators from within. We don't hire outside people, and you never put them full-time. They're always 2 hours a month or 2 hours a week. So we'll talk about that as we go. So having a structured system will change things for you. I'll guarantee you that. And what we do is we give you a 9-step plan. The first one is we need to change the policies within your manual. Next week, we're going to go into this in detail. But right now, I want to talk about the fact that if you don't have a policy in place, if you don't have it in your procedures manual, if you don't have it in your employees or a contractors agreements, then it's never going to happen. So you need to define it. A lot of companies do define that, and then they don't talk about it afterwards. They have no structure, they have no communications, and they have no person at the team that the inventor can go to. And as a result, they'll still lose the IP. Now, if they wanted to contain that IP, it's going to be very hard for them to do that. So from there, the second one is the IP discovery. We call this an IP opportunity audit. Sounds onerous, but it's pretty easy. Basically, we break it down to either department by department or site by site. So you might have a branch office in one city, another one, a production facility in one city, and another one in another city. Doesn't matter whether there's just sales or whatever orientation they are. We will go through all of them and make sure that you can run the audit. It's a lot of questions, but we build on that. And we're not evaluating any ideas. We're just gathering ideas and registering them. Later on, once we've done the IP discovery, and usually it's an every 2-year process, but the first one is the hardest because we have to do all of your departments, all of your sites, your work sites. So making sure that it's an education thing. It's also an opportunity for you to identify potential opportunities. They might just be ideas, but we'll progress them into projects later on. So once you've done the IP discovery, you've created a register, and then we take an opportunity assessment. Now, this is where we train the team, your incubation team, and we build you a complete method of assessment. That might include things like proof of concept, market validation, pricing, costing, sourcing. You need to know that there's a margin in this at the end of the day for the company and a demand for it. So you need to know all of this before you invest any money into this, certainly before you patent anything. And we need to also lock down everybody for non-disclosure and waiver of rights, non-compete agreements, etc., etc. So once we've done all the opportunity assessment, we now know what these are worth, and we know we want to keep them, we want to hold them, or we want to abandon them. Keep, hold, abandon is something we hear all the time. The objective there is to make sure that in keep, hold, abandon, we can make a decision and put it now on hold or give it back to the inventor. I like to, when I abandon a project, I like to hand it back to the inventor and wish them luck with it, but point out that if they keep working on it, maybe we'll look at it next year, and because they're going to get a reward for this if they do hand it in later on. So the opportunity assessment can be brutal, and we also do reviews, project stage reviews every month with projects. So even though we do weekly meetings as we're developing them, there are times when you have to get brutal about a project and say it's not meeting the objectives, we're not progressing it, we need to put it back into hold. So that is a fluid situation where they may go on hold, they may be abandoned at a later time. Then we do the commercial modelling. Commercial models, for those of you who are now level 1 program, who've done a commercial model before, we start with 244 questions. It blows out to about 500 data points on a mind map, and it also has an action plan, a task list, and that is fully sequenced, it's costed, and it's allocated to people within the team. So everyone has their tasks to do and the time to do it within on a month-by-month basis. A commercial model will guarantee you'll know whether this will make money, and you'll know how to do it and the steps you need to take. And it'll also have your budget, because that's just as important. When you have one project, it's pretty easy. When you have 16 different projects going through at different stages of their development, you need to be able to balance your budget and make sure that you're not, you're using some money you're earning from one project to fund another project, and the system becomes sustainable rather than having to go back to management and pitch for another wad of money because you're running out. That would be the worst thing you can have. So commercial modelling is very important. It's usually done in a half-day workshop, and we would train your people on how to do that. So you pull everyone in, you'd have all the members of the incubator, you'd also have the inventor and the associated people, and you would just run that for 4 hours. It really brings up the result. Once you've done that, you may decide that this project is going to be funded internally or externally. Internally, it's pretty easy. You still have to do a pitch, but you're doing a pitch to senior management, to your board of directors, or to the C-suite people. The objective there is to say, will you allocate funding for this project on this amount over the next 6 months or 12 months, whatever it's going to be? And we need this much, we need to drag it down, drop it in. And the project's going to start yielding this, and the breakthrough, the break even is at this point here. So you've spelled out everything for everybody, all on the way from start, all the way through to cash flow positive, to profit, etc., and to the exit, because we always plan an exit. If you're not going to get out, nobody else is going to get in. Now, you may decide, the company may decide, we don't want to fund this, but we encourage you to do something, in which case you say, well, let's look for an external partner. We'll join that partner with us, and those people will fund the project going forward. They get the R&D, we don't, but they get to claim the R&D, but they're paying for things. And you pick your partner based on what equipment you need to access to in order to, because funding might be $500,000 and 300,000 of that might be to buy equipment to do this. But if you find a partner who has that equipment, and they might be operating in a different jurisdiction or a different market than you are, then it's a lot easier to do a partnership, and they would have rights to the product in their area, and you would have rights to your product in your area. Could be geographic, but it also could be demographic difference. So if they're only in trucks and you're only in cars, it makes it a lot easier. So funding, there's lots of tricks and ways. We use our own funding process, which is the cornerstone investor model. We've been doing that now since 2014, and in fact, it's my latest invention, and it's been very successful. Once we've done the funding, we then have to do the commercialization. This is the hard part, the rollout. But it's not actually hard, it's quite enjoyable. Most incubation teams love doing the work. They're only doing it 1 hour a week, and they might meet online, and sometimes they get me to chair those meetings. And for some clients, I've had 6 project stage review weekly meetings with their 6 different projects for one team. When we do that, it's a lot easier. They can just whip it all through. And we can keep momentum. The most important thing is to make sure projects don't slow down. In our level 1 program, we have group coaching calls. These are not group coaching calls. These are private calls for one-on-many with the team itself, no one else. And we work only on what they need to do. Now that's a set fee per month per project, and there's no contract, because they can drop projects out or bring more projects in as they wish. And some people can run, 2, 3, 6, 10, doesn't matter. Once you've done that, we then have to decide what your outcomes are. And it could be a trade sale, it could be a license, it could be distribution, whatever it's going to be. We are going to be moving towards that and making sure those significant cash generating transactions happen, and on a regular basis. And when a project reaches all of its contracts that it was going to do, it can actually opt out of the incubator. It doesn't need to be an incubator. It'll still operate, but sometimes they graduate out of the program because they're successful and they've got all their licenses. Other times they might graduate out of the program because they become a strategic business unit within the company, and then they're operating as a separate unit. They're no longer incubated. And we do at times lose key personnel from within the incubator because they go and run those projects. So that's another reason why employees love to get involved in incubation, because they can see it's a stepping stone to C-suite. Once we've done that, we need to understand that we need to focus on, once you've done your first project, it's been a success, you've got to be careful because the whole thing can collapse. So you need to understand that this is a process. The incubator has a life of its own, and you should always be doing your IP discoveries and bringing new projects through, doing the assessments, etc. Some of them may die, that's fine, but some of them may keep going. So you're always looking, and bringing in more and more projects. And once you've done that successfully and you've created a life of its own for the incubator, which is still only using part-time personnel within the company with a separate role, you then can create a portfolio. And if you can create a portfolio, you can sequence your expenditure, you can build your budgets, you can start allocating income back to different departments, and you can also charge a fee. The incubator can become a profit center when the portfolio is big enough. The portfolio then can take a role of being the licensee for the company. It can do the distribution, set up more distribution channels, but it also can trade sale ideas out. Once an idea is matured, it's not going to grow anymore. You might decide, well, it's no longer of any use to us because we can't grow. There's no blue sky left. So let's just give it to someone who can produce it and let them run with it. So in a case like that, it's very quick and easy to get the whole thing valued and put on the market, and because it's a going concern. So that's the 9 steps we're going to do over the next 9 weeks. As I mentioned, they're going to be recorded but not available. They're going into our members library, so members can tack onto these and rewatch them whenever they like, because these are the introduction to the 9 steps. Okay, so the case study I want to do today is on policy, the first level. We'll go into this a lot deeper next week because it was a particular project that I did, and I did it about quite a few years ago. I think it was 2006, so it's 20 years ago. Now, I can tell you that no laws were broken by anybody in this organisation, and the reason for that is because they just didn't have a policy. So now the case study is on the West Australian Government Department of Health. We did it on an opportunity audit for the entire state government. We did everything, police department, you name it. We did every department, and we looked for IP opportunities. But what we found in there was pretty ordinary. So let me point out how this situation got to what it was. There was the Department of Health has a lot of hospitals, it has a lot of health regions, but the hospitals also included 2 or 3 teaching hospitals. And those had a lot of, we had this one called Sir Charles Gardner Hospital. Very nice hospital, very research orientated, and a lot of the key personnel department heads were running research, but they had no outcomes other than for the hospital. And so they were developing intellectual property all the time. So that became quite awkward when we found that when we did the opportunity audit right across the organisation, that particular department had no method of capture. So, and I want to focus on Department of Health because the others were pretty easy to sort. There was no reward system existed. There was no method of capture. There's no method of monetizing. So they had university affiliates with these teaching hospitals because they were, most of the people there were also graduates of the different universities. And what the universities did, one particular university, is they approached them. And in the absence of any policy that was there, they said, what about we give you a solution? And they did. What we found was they made them offers and they got the IP for free. And one of those licensees was $8 million. And that was back in 1996. So it was a lot of money at that time. Now, some inventors were awarded adjunct professorships. That was a way of rewarding them. It was free. The university just gave them a title and they were working at the hospital and they had their title there, but they also had an adjunct professorship, which basically meant nothing, but they could put it on their CV. And that is currency. So that is what these guys wanted, because all they could accept, they couldn't accept dollars because their employment agreements wouldn't allow them, but they could accept an adjunct professorship as a part-time thing, which basically meant no work, probably meant no money, but they were able to put it on their CV. Now, some of them were rewarded with research assistants, research workers, but also equipment that they needed was purchased for them in order for them to advance the project further. So they were more and more bringing these projects to that particular university well before they were mature enough. They're bringing them in as ideas and saying, help me and I'll get this on. And the universities were getting the pick of all the IP, signing it over, starting the development, and basically doing a lot of it at the university rather than in the teaching hospital, but using the teaching hospital staff for nothing. Worked well for everybody. Arguably, the state still got the benefit because the university is not really a private institution, but there was no method. And what we had to do was to build a policy that would enable these guys to create a transaction that would do that. And then the state could get rewarded based on shares or options or anything else as these projects went out to a public offer. So that shows you how this can be millions of dollars. And that was one project was $8 million. There was a lot of other projects in there. Some of them small, some of them large, some of them short-term, some of them long-term. But that was one within the annual cycle that we were able to peg. And so you can see it's probably tens of millions of dollars, probably closer to $100 million over 10 years that we got, that happened before we got there. But there were no penalties, there's no laws broken. It was just the way it was set up. So when we changed one slight thing, which was adding policies and procedures that would handle and manage the IP and the ownership and the protection, everything still followed the same paths in a lot of cases, but it did change the way we did it, or the way they did it. So on the first run, we do policy changes, and there are steps we take on that. We define the IP, we make sure that we absolutely know what it is, and it's not, we also do some searching to make sure it's not common to others. We change the policies and procedure manuals, and we also look at the employment agreements and any contractor agreements. We also have our standard NDAs, waivers, waiver of rights and contractor agreements. We make sure that they can be modified for each project as we go. They have a checklist They have a bank of these where you can just dive in and pull these out as you need them. But everyone's aware of what they are and what they're going to look like. So there's no scary afterthought when somebody comes up with an idea. They already know what's going to happen. We then set about educating the staff and the contractors to make sure that they understand, A, what happens with IP, ownership and protection, but also what they're going to get in terms of a benefit long term. So we need to reward them, we need to incentivize them, and we also need to have a system so they can volunteer to bring things in. And you'll find that they'll do that because nobody wants to risk their life savings on an idea. Yes, there are plenty out there that make millions, but there's a whole lot more that don't. I think the USPTO published a survey they did, a longitudinal survey over 10 years from 95 to 05, and they published the results at different points during that. And it was a very small half-page questionnaire that went out with the 5-year renewal. And the 5-year point, they said, have you made money on your patent? And they had 4 different levels. One level was made nothing. Another level was made, I'm in profit and I'm able to retire. But the majority of people clipped off the area that said did not make enough to cover the cost of the patents. So if you get 95% or more saying we didn't cover the cost of our patents, you've got to say to yourself, did they jump early? Did they patent things that weren't worth it? Maybe. But did they just run out of money? Did they fail to commercialise, that is, raise the money, monetize the project and find the buyers? And because there are skill sets that any scientist or engineer probably doesn't have raw, they have to build those. If they don't have that, then chances are they're going to go broke. And getting people into a system means that they are included and they can be part of it. Believe me, they want to be part of it. Then we create that culture of innovation, and we can elevate people into and out of the incubator. When we elevate them out of an incubator, it's usually as a manager or operator of a strategic business unit that we've created as a result of incubation. So that's your policy changes that are needed on level 1. Then we do IP discovery. This is the IP opportunity audit that I talked about. We schedule those, we run them. They're usually about a half day. They don't take that long for many departments, but we just bring the people around, we ask them questions, and we document their ideas. We classify them into 4 different levels, and then we do later on, we'll do the assessment of them. We don't do any assessment at the time. We take down all details to make sure that we've captured everything, even though it might just be an idea, but it could also be a project. So we then, once we've done that, we do our assessment checklist. We don't do that with the people on the spot. We do that separately with the incubator only. And we decide our keep, hold, abandon, what projects are we going to keep going with, and then we set what is the role of the incubator is going to be going forward. At that point there, we know this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. So we then do our project assessment. So this is measuring whether or not this project fits the corporation. So the corporate mission is the first thing we look at. If this is building widgets that are not associated with the company, then is that something we want to do? It might be profitable, but if it doesn't fit our mission, it's probably not long-term going to do anything but dissipate our skill sets and cause people to get very confused about the corporate mission. Does it require equipment we already have? If we don't have to do any capital expenditure to get this operational, that's going to be a huge win because that could make this product come online a lot quicker, and we already have the people who operate that equipment, so therefore we have the skill sets as well. We also ask, do we have the customers for this? So the customers is the sales channel that we already have for our existing products. Would those same people want to buy this product? So if you've got your product A and this becomes product B, will product B be sold to people who have already purchased product A? Does it cannibalize the market or does it complement it? So we need to know all of this before we start. We don't want to have to build a whole new sales channel for a new line of product unless it's well worth it and needed. Does it fit our skills, infrastructure, and expertise? We want to make sure that everything is common here, so then we're not going outside it. We're not reinventing another company. That was the case, and I've had people who, I had a gentleman who developed a really good product, but the key for him was he was putting latches on these, and he was having over-center latches, which were very, very good, and he could see that they were locking his product, but they could also be used on camper vans and the likes. He could see a big market for it because it was very easy to operate and it was robust. It was not going to break. So he span that out, got it going, and then trade sale using the incubation process. Is timing or available resources an issue? Sometimes companies can say, this is a great idea, but we are not ready because we've got so much to do in the next 12 months. We're redesigning or redeveloping or whatever we're doing. So this is not something that can fit. Do we hold it? Do we keep it? Do we trade sale it, get it out? So, or abandon it. So if that were the case, you need to make those decisions based on the corporate, and you need to feed that, and you need to have this in the pitch you put to the management when it comes to funding. So once we've done that, we then need to build the commercial model. Commercial model is pretty easy. We're now saying, okay, thank you very much. We've got everything we need. We now need to make this product work in the market. So we start with the end user with a problem that this product solves, and we work backwards all the way to how do we produce it. And when we do that, we'll know our pricing, costing, sourcing, our proof of concept, market validation, you name it. We've got it all nailed down very tight, and we're able to deliver an action plan that will do that. So we first map the demand to purchase process, working on the demand all the way through to procurement. We do our market validation, proof of concept, pricing, costing, sourcing, external issues that can affect. There we're looking at things like political, legal, regulatory, social, societal, economic, competitive, technological issues that can impact on you, but you can't control. And that's most important, that you identify those and have policies in place on how you're going to mitigate the exposure to those. Some of them may never happen, but at the same time, it could be quite a big deal for if the market doesn't like, or somebody outside has to make a decision. I'll give you an example. I had a fairly large mining company that was only in one area of one aspect of mining, and they were in aluminium, and they had a bauxite mine. They were doing very well with it. In the middle of that bauxite mine, they found gold, big deposit of gold. Their management said, we're not interested in gold, but the assayers said, look, you can't leave this. This is really, really big. So they decided, okay, well, if we're going to go into gold, our mandate for mining for that area, our lease is only for bauxite. So they had to go and get another approval. Excuse me. So in order to get that approval, they realised they're going to run into all sorts of problems with the people around the district, because they're going to have slurry pits for gold. There's a lot of nasty chemicals used, and they didn't want to have that, and they realised they're going to run into problems with it because this wasn't very far from the capital city. So what they did is they set up an organisation called Tree Tech Australia, and I actually got part of that, and I chaired that company for a while. They funded it. The government put in equal funding, and they designed and developed clonal eucalyptus trees which would reforestate mines, rehabilitate mines after use. But also this was particularly used for, they would grow in 1.5 times the saline content of saltwater, seawater. So what they were doing is planting them into an area we call the wheat belt, where they had a lot of salt pans, and they were actually stabilising the soil and bringing the salt levels down again. So they did all of that, publicised that, and then applied to the government and got their gold mine. That gold mine, by the way, paid for itself in 8 weeks. If you've ever heard of a gold mine paying for itself in 8 weeks, that one did. So just goes to show that they realised there are external issues, both from government, political, legal, regulatory issues, but also social and societal issues from the local people they're going to impact them. So what they did is to mitigate that by showing, hey, we're good guys. And they spent a lot of money doing that, but they made it back in 8 weeks. We also have to look at the ownership and protection and the process of producing it, and whether we have capacity, etc. All of that needs to be looked at. And then once you've done that, you need to create that culture of innovation to make sure that this will get everyone on board. The mission for this particular project is set. It is approved by management, and we then fund it, put all the resource into it, and get it going. Now, once we've done that, we're talking about the budgeting and funding, which is overlapping from what we just talked about. We have to define and develop the development and marketing tasks. We need to know what it's going to do. That we've done that in our commercial modelling. We build a budget and a Gantt chart. The commercial model will kick out a good Gantt chart, all the action plans, all the steps, all the accountabilities. They need to then look at sourcing the funds, whether it's internal or external. I've talked about that, whether companies would do it or whether or not we go outside. The company needs to make that decision. So it's a case of, will you fund it or do we have to go outside? And they might say, we don't want you to go outside either. We want you to put it back on hold. So you're tied to that, but you're pitching for funding internally and then later on externally. You might end up getting non-competing collaborators who are going to use that product or take a license to that product, and their license fee is going to be half of what they've already spent for the first 2 years. So they're going to basically get the product for free for 2 years, and then they start paying after that. We've got in-house with our online self-paced learning, we've got all the checklists and templates, the funding tools, the due diligence process that you need for the cornerstone investor model. We pull it all down and it makes it a lot easier. Even if you're internally pitching, you still use the same process. Then once we've done that, we've got to then make sure that this all stays to the plan. What you have within an incubator is probably people with less experience than your average accounting or finance team. And so they can go off track if they're not careful. They need to report monthly to the management. It's not a big report, but there's a half page of bullet points and there's of actions that have been taken and are going to be taken. There's a half page of issues and there's a half page of budget. And that's all that goes out. So it's very concise, but at the same time, it gives everyone a quick window of this is where we are. We're just looking at it as a KPI, basically. Okay. So then we're into the commercialization. So you need to now make all this happen. The incubator plays a big role there because they're going to be the resource that's going to do that. And if somebody's in the legal department and they're also on the incubator, they're going to need more time to do this. So depending on what they need to do, that is now fed back to their senior management so they can understand, okay, this person needs more time to do that role as we move forward. So we've done the commercial modelling, we've done ownership and protection, we've done the funding and budgeting. Now we need to transition this out of R&D and into commercialization, making sure that it can start to make money. And then once we get to that, we need to scale it. You might not scale it within the organisation, sometimes you will. Scaling means that if we're at a point where if you put in 10 times the equity, you'll get 100 times the output. Decisions have to be made right then and there to make this project into either a strategic business unit or a trade sale. So, because if you just keep starving it, it's not going to work. And I've seen these starve quite badly, particularly when you've got a company who are a mature company in a mature industry. They're not going to want to feed the beast. So they're not used to, in Boston Consulting Group matrix, if you understand the main one, cash cow, they're not spending money on growth. They're only spending money on saving. They're looking to save money. They're looking to pare everything down. Whereas this might be a star and needs to be fed a lot of resources. So the mentality might not be the same. And I've seen projects killed as a result of that. So you need to understand. And exiting might actually be the option at that point. because you've got to get it at the right price, the right value to make this work. Okay, so when we've done that, we need to monetize the whole thing. So turning the actions into money. So we might add this to a current product line or a sales channel. It doesn't matter which it is, but if it's complementary, we've had one recently where the product that they developed used 60% of the components that one of their competitors are using. So it was pretty easy to go along there and say, hey, would you like to take a license? These guys could do this blindfolded and add a product line to there. And they already had the sales channel into, in this case, hardware stores. So it can be quite easy to do. Building a product to have distributed is another thing. You might not want to have this product on, but you want to have the capacity to fill your production capacity more. So if you're going to do that, then by all means, bring the product in, get the build it, and then have a distributor all set up who's going to operate this as you need to. Building a portfolio of license agreements. We talked about number 9, the portfolio management side of this. As you build that license, you might actually have a process. Let's say you're a service-based company, a consulting, engineering, whatever, and you've built something for somebody and it went over really well. You might actually, in your policy, own the rights to that you built. They've got full rights to build another one if they wanted to, separate to you, but the license rights are yours. And they get an unfettered license in perpetuity. They just can't sell it. So they can't have third parties do it. So you keep your license, and then it might be that you package that up. So the next time somebody wants that particular object built again, you might say, well, okay, we can build you one from scratch and design the whole thing, and it's going to be this price, but we can take our off-the-shelf plan and deliver it for this, which might be 30% less, but you're going to pay a 10% fee, license fee. Would you like to do that? Once off, that's it. And you own the same rights in perpetuity as you go forward to operate, change, or amend your plans or your project. So people like the idea, but you're building a portfolio of license agreements, which really other people are paid for, but you own the intellectual property for. So we can build that up, and then in which case the incubator can sometimes transition to a full-time thing where the members of the incubator are actually selling the license agreements on a full-time basis, looking for distributors, or they're trade selling their opportunities outright when they no longer fit the company. Or even when they're promising they still don't fit the company, they would find an opportunity, a buyer for it. So I like to think that if you're not going to take a project on you and you're going to abandon it, you hand it back to the inventor. It's only fair that you assign the rights to the inventor and say, good luck to you. Sometimes that can backfire. I was responsible for one that ended up getting $1.2 million a year for 20 years, and that 20-year end of the 20 years got renewed for another 20 years. And we gave it back because we couldn't find an application for it. But arguably, the inventor did have the application in mind. He didn't share it with us. We didn't find it. We didn't understand it. We ended up giving the product back. We sold it back to him for $1, and he set up his own. He still was employed by the university. He's still there today, even after 23 years of income like that, supplementing his superannuation. He's quite okay with heading the department that he does. So incubator growth. Now we need to focus on the incubator itself to make sure that the health of the incubator is managed. You've got people coming in, got people going out. You've got projects coming in and going out. You sometimes have to, there'll be arguments. There'll be people who are championing one particular project, but they can't deliver on what they want, and they know they've got something that's just about to happen, and it never is. And month after month after month, or week after week after week reporting, they're not able to get this thing to happen. There are times when you, as an incubator, you elect to put that project back on hold, pull back the budget and throw it into something else, in which case there's lots of decisions, but you need to keep that person engaged into other projects as well, and making sure that the life of the incubator is healthy, but also the individual's commitment to the incubator is good. And the inventors out there who are in different departments, they may have come onto the incubator temporarily, full-time, or not at all. And you need to be able to make sure that these people are, their attitude to it is healthy as well. So what you don't want is an us and them. So you make sure that you keep alongside these people on a long-term basis. That's why I like to have some inventors come into an incubator for 3 months and then get invited to stay. But usually we have a 3-month interval. We say, we're going to invite you to stay onto this for 3 months. And later on, we might form a technical advisory panel and you will chair that as the project goes out to a strategic business unit. So that person feels engaged. So recruitment of the members for casual roles, training of these new roles. I like to do that. I like to think we've got the perfect product for that. It's called our Inventors Academy Level 3 program. We do all the training. We do self-paced learning. We use about 20 or 30 different case studies where we're teaching you those 9 points, making sure that we're giving you relevant case studies, action plans, checklist templates, swipe files, everything you need to actually roll it out. And then there's coaching. The coaching happens not by one-on-one coaching, but rather as your team meets, I might come in and meet with that as part of your incubation team for that particular project every week for however long you want me. And it's only a month-by-month contract. You don't have to have long-term contracts for those. And you're just using me to make sure that everyone's on the right track. I'm bouncing things off. I'm coaching, so I'm asking a lot of questions, but we're making sure that we're embedding the learning you're doing online into the incubator to make it more robust. We're establishing rules and reward systems for the people in the incubator and also for the inventors, and the company has to agree to that as well. So we're negotiating those rules with the organisation as we go. We do monthly incubator meetings. Those monthly reports are 3 parts, as I mentioned, 3 half pages, bullet points, so you know what the project status is and also what the budget is, etc. So and what the issues are, the issues that have been resolved and issues merging. We also do selection of those meetings. The incubator decides, okay, we're going to bring in a new project. Oh, that other project is now ready to graduate, or it's going to be put on hold, or whatever it's going to do. So you're making those decisions at monthly incubator meetings. You're also doing the weekly group meetings per project. Now, they are totally separate, and the whole idea is that's where all the action happens. So we're making sure that the projects get traction every week. If you don't manage a project weekly, things are not going to happen. And I can tell you, majority of the tasks you set on a week-by-week basis are done the night before. That's the way we as people are engineered. So as a result, we need to be able to keep people to account and ourselves to account, the incubator to account, the inventor to account, by putting those milestones in there and making those weekly meetings happen and reporting happen. So we record those, they go back in, we set up an event for that, a closed user group, so people can go and review it. Management can review it at any time. We also had that reporting structure for management, and also if you're a public organisation, you're going to need the auditors to feed something. So we have those monthly 3-part reports. We also had the pictures. Everything is recorded. It's thrown into your own little closed user group secure area on your database or wherever you're going to put it, and the management can get access to it when they need to. Okay, so then once you've got the incubated growth happening, you know it's going to get a life of its own, you know it's going to be healthy. Then we have to look at the long term, which is building the portfolio management. Portfolios have a life of their own, and we need to make sure that we've got all the skill sets based in there, like a licensing representative. Shall we keep it or sell it? You don't have to have these full time. They're either people from within the organisation. You could bring them in from outside, but they're only being used 1 hour a week per project. Shall we keep it or sell it? Is it part of our organisational mission? You've done all of that assessment. You need to make sure that those decisions are reviewed every month, with quick ticks to keep the projects going? Can we incorporate our own know-how and our knowledge to make this project far more functional? Do we have know-how to give? Do others have better know-how? Do we share it with those? There's a whole lot of questions here that we have to look at. We're looking at pricing. How are we going to charge for a trade sale? How are we going to charge for royalties? It's pretty easy for us because in our program, we just go into our members library and pull out the checklist of royalty rates for licensing for worldwide for different industries. There it is. You have it. You check and measure bang. There it is. There's the one I'm going to use. And then you can start putting together your pitch. We want to know whether this is going to enhance or impede production. If you're going to take one particular machine offline to do your work and it's no longer available for the irregular production, that's an impedance. It's not an advantage. So we're looking at whether it will enhance or impede. You've got to be rational about that, and you've got to also involve the production manager in something like that. He may not be in the incubator, but you would have a meeting with him to make sure. Also, what's the life of a project? Now, I can tell you there's no one set life of the project, but we generally bring projects in for 3 months and then see if we can engineer a promising opportunity, and we then hold them until they're ready to go. Whether we keep, we hold, we abandon. So it depends on what you want to do. Hold is putting them on hold for later. Okay, so that shows you what we're going to do and how the portfolio management works. I've covered the 9. Now I just want to cover you how we get it done. So I'm going to spend 5 or 6 minutes now just talking to you about how I help. So there's 3 levels of help, and there's done by you, done for you, done with you. Now the done by you is pretty easy. That's where you can buy a book, you can buy a course, you can learn. It can take 2 to 5 years. There's no issue with that, but you can get it done. From there, you might do a done with you. That's where we give you access to online self-paced learning. We help you recruit your team. We then run while they're learning in background, we're running the first opportunity audit. So then you can learn the skills. You can then run your own audits, and we review those because they're always, we usually film those into Zoom, and then I can review it and at fast speed and determine whether any mistakes have been done, whatever, and we can do self-correction and then build from there. But also we can do the project management, project stage review meetings weekly, or the ongoing incubator monthly meetings. So it all depends on what you want. You pick the level, and there's no long-term contracts other than for the training, which you just buy the module of training. Now, there also would be a done for you. Done for you can get it done in 6 to 10 weeks. It's pretty easy, but the problem there is the cost. So that's where you give the project to me, and I go and do it, set it all up, and I run the incubators. I am the incubator. I run the opportunity audits. I run the project stage reviews. I bring everything in. I'm working with the inventors, getting it all done as a separate department. It costs a lot more, but some people like it because it's very quick and it gets you back to your cash management. It might be something that you decide that's much better. We don't have the people, we don't want to diversify that much. Some people work from done for you into a done with you program over a 12-month period, and that's fine too. Okay, so the done with you help that we do is pretty easy. In elements, it's firstly there's education and recruitment. We usually hold a half-day workshop where we bring in the people from your organisation. Sometimes we'll do that in the organisation. If you're diversified in terms of location, we'll do it on Zoom, and it serves as a recruitment tool, but we're doing it this is how we're going to handle IP in the future. You've been called in because there's promising opportunities for IP, and this is what's going to happen, how it's going to do. Would you like to be part of the incubation? We need these skills, and here's a cross-section of the types of skills we need. From there, we provide you with your online training and tools. Our level 3 program is already in there. It's 45 to 48 hours of online self-paced learning, checklists, templates, all the case studies are all built in. From there, you've got project qualification and modelling. That's the IP opportunity audits, and then we do the commercial modelling. When you need to do the commercial modelling, the first one we'll help you with. After that, you've got the checklist. You can do it yourself. So it's all good to go. Then we do the live coaching as you're doing the commercialization. You pick us for 1 hour per project per week, and we just charge a monthly fee for that. And it's month by month. Some projects you'll put on hold after a month. Others you'll keep going for 2-3 years. That's fine. Whatever you like, you can do that with a done with you project. So we're in there. Our touch points are where you're touching the projects as well. So we know that we're monitoring it for you, and everything is recorded, so you've got access to it on the C-suite, or directors have access to it for their own recourse. And then we're helping you with portfolio management. So sometimes you need advice on keep, hold, abandon. You might also need to look at projects as externally funded because it's going to be too big for you. A lot of other reasons you need to know. Well, we're there with you for that. Now, key takeaways from all of this. I just want to do a quick summary here. Having a team with a structured process to implement is a safe and immediate fix to capture and monetize IP that you create within your organization. Pretty easy. This is what IP incubation is all about. It can be operated for as low as $5,000 plus $2,000 per project per month for the ongoing fees per project. Very affordable. And then from there, if you want to book an in-house training and recruitment workshop for your teams, we can do that separately, and you can make your decision on going forward after that when you've seen the outcomes of that. So now I'm going to open this up for a Q&A session. Before I do, for those of you who want to, you can get access to my calendar, make a booking, talk to me. If you've got a phone handy, you can actually jump on here and open your camera and point it at this. Don't take a photo, just point to it. The QR code will give you my yellow dot on your screen. Tap that. You're now into my calendar. You can book a time that's available. We can chat for 30 minutes, and I can tell you whether or not you're available, or whether or not I can help you with this. So there's our share. I'll finish that. Hopefully you've had a lot of there to keep it going. So do you have any questions on this? Anybody with questions?